FBI/CIA agents have read it. What is something that you can tell us without killing us? I worked with the Australian Federal Police with the Spider Squad doing computer stuff for them in regards to pedis and finding trafficking victims. It is the most heartbreaking work, but when you get them, the office looked like NASA after a Mars landing. Edit. Left 3 and bit years ago, but do get called up to lend a hand every now and then. Somewhat unrelated, but my great uncle was a FBI agent. Every time we would ask him if he had any interesting stories, but he would say he was sworn to secrecy. After 10 years of hearing this, my sister asked airily, and he responded with Reno. I just don't remember anything interesting happening. CIA have different specialists, like any government branch. Field agents, paper pushers, targeting officers, programs and plans officers, paramilitary officers, language officers, information resource officers. The list goes on. I am available if you're looking for a middle-aged bullshit artist. My aunt has been an FBI agent for 25 years. The only thing I know about her job is that she was an office administrator. But her information went public somehow when she was part of the team that investigated the Mandalay Bay shooting in Las Vegas. Someone found the name and address of most of the agents that worked that scene and put it up online. Not sure why. She also took me and my family on a tour of the Las Vegas FBI headquarters about 15 years ago. One thing interesting that I remember about the building is that all the doors were floor-to-ceiling 9-foot doors. Thought that was weird. Intelligence work is really boring most of the time. I was an analyst, not an agent/officer. 85% of all classified material is classified because of how it was collected, not because it is juicy/useful. Yes, you boss and co-workers said that shit about you. My dad worked for GCHQ in the 80s doing voice recognition, and he can't say anything more for a decade more. The way they can recognize you by Siri/Google today was being used in the 80s, just a bit slower. When I applied for a clerical position with the FBI, someone on the subway unaccountably sat next to me and asked if I'd write her son and persuade him to apply to a school for the deaf. I am deaf myself. Oh, how could she have known I was? So I wrote a letter. She and I met for dinner, then we went our separate ways. I have always wondered about this. Edit. So does the FBI do this in order to check you out? I did not get the job due to an old college debt. If I can trust that she's telling the truth, there's an old lady in town who was in the FBI back in 50s/60s. She said Nikita Khrushchev was a short man. Not an FBI or CIA officer here, but my sister is a district attorney, and over the years she has prosecuted a number of animal cruelty cases. This led to her having an ongoing partnership with the FBI for the last several years. It turns out the FBI started tracking animal abuse cases about 10 to 15 years ago due to the incredibly high correlation between abusing animals when you're young and becoming a serial violent offender as an adult. Met an old, retired CIA spook at a wedding reception. Spitting image of Colonel Sanders. He was amazing. So I asked him, I don't want you to tell me anything you can't, but I'd love to know, when Kennedy got killed, what was the talk around the water cooler in the office? He didn't halt or pause to think. Hell, we all thought Johnson did it. My high school girlfriend worked for the National Reconnaissance Office after college. At the time, they were responsible for analyzing the nation's spy satellite photos. She told me two things. 1. There's a special garbage chute for classified materials. It's in the hallway. When you are new, as a hazing ritual, they tell you have to shout your badge number down the chute before throwing in any materials. This is hilarious. 2. She wouldn't tell me anything about the resolution quality of the spy photos, of course, but she did let it slip that, because Russian sailors will sunbathe nude on the decks of their submarines in the Black Sea, several women in the office would pin those photos up in their cubicles as cheesecake beefcake photos. So a few decades ago, US spy photos could resolve Russian penis. Edit, credit/u/seditious3. Brian Bendis, creator of Miles Morales, author of House of M, etc., has a story about doing a talk at GBCI at Langley and being told to wait in a break room, not allowed to have his laptop, phone, his own notebook or pen, but was supplied with a notebook when he walked in that had be reviewed when he left. A young analyst walks in for coffee, sees him sitting there, recognized him as famous comic book author Brian Michael Bendis, and starts to react like a fan. He then pauses, starts sweating, and quietly asks Bendis if this is a test of some kind. If you apply for a job at GCHQ/Me5/Me6/Fillingdale/etc, they will talk to every member of your close family, and if any minor red flags come up you might not get the job. And also if you are Chinese/Russian/North Korean/etc. I think that it probably goes to a grandparent or great grandparent being from that country. You will not even be able to apply. Source, stepdad was in Me6 and fun fact, if he wants to go to certain countries, Israel, he has to ask permission from the mod to travel there. Just so you people know, there will be a case file opened in order to investigate and document this Reddit post. We are all told never to use sites like this, and social media in general is pretty much a no-go. My dad worked for the government, and he told me that anytime he had a meaningful interaction with someone who wasn't American, i.e. going over to my friend's house for Lunar New Year, or going on vacation to Canada, he had to report it all, and if he saw anything suspicious. There is a book called Moscow Rules. It was written by 2 CIA people, all about, well, disguise. The CIA had all these agents in Russia, but the Russians were insane about following literally every single American in Russia, 24/7, looking for spies. So a huge part of their job was trying to shake off the KGB. They had crazy quick change disguises, all sorts of stuff. The movie Argo was based on one of the writers somewhat. If you go through the FBI interview process, it takes a while. Chances are you're going to have to spend some time working on crimes against children, which is really tough and most people don't want to do it. Not CIA but I've worked with, and know guys in intelligence. Most of the intelligence we get is from OSINT, open source intel. i.e. news articles, press releases, news networks and government announcements. Most people think that everyone in intelligence is some James Bond Jason Bourne type of individual when in reality, the majority of analysts sit at a desk and go through news articles all day. That said, that is not the only method we have to gather intel, but it is where most of it comes from. Even analysts that are using other methods such as GEOINT, IMINT and SIGINT spend their day cropping images for minute details or replaying and monitoring the same signal over and over again. An ex-company man once told me Get Smart was more accurate than James Bond. Worked with a woman who was former NSA. We would always beg her to tell us shit, but she never did. The one thing she did say, though, was that during training they show them a video of a bunch of things they'd found out about and stopped. She said she hardly slept for 2 weeks after watching that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but a mentor who definitely wasn't supposed to tell me used to be a white hat for the FBI. Apparently, all he did was search for pedophiles by tracking child pornography. He said he didn't stay for very long because it was messing with his mentality. Edit, if you guys were wondering, he left to join the Navy. Became a nukem, but they pulled him out of the program because of his cybersecurity skills, and before I left our command, he was helping RCMC connecting his computer to a projector. Sorry to put you on the spotlight M1. My father was in the Navy and ended his career working at the Pentagon. When the war started in Iraq, he'd flip out every time the news pushed weapons of mass destruction narrative. Lo and behold, there were none. Yeah, you'd like to know what accounts belong to FBI/CIA agents, wouldn't you? Operation Ivy Bells was a plan to tap Soviet communication lines. The cover story they used was that they had divers diving down to recover fragments of a new Soviet supersonic anti-ship missile. The communication line tap was a failure due to a spy. However, the dive team successfully recovered all fragments of the missiles from the Soviet weapons tests. The US was able to reverse engineer one and subsequently learned they were radar guided, only in the assumed eye guidance did not exist. 95% of individuals can be uniquely identified using as few as 4 spatio-temporal points. I once rented out my old farmhouse to a family. They paid the rent every month, and other than not mowing the lawn to save their life, I did not think anything bad about them. That all changed when the D called me to inform me that my renter had been murdered in Mexico and was asking my permission to search the property. Well, it turns out I had unknowingly rented my house to the Mexican mob and they were using it as safe house. It all fell apart for them when 2 of them got caught with a duffel bag full of meth. My renter had to go back to Mexico to visit his mother and was promptly murdered. Let us just say I no longer am a landlord and never will be again. I am not one, but my friend is. She went off the grid after she graduated college, got recruited by the CIA. She told us she was interested and majored in political science. I hope she is doing well.